Hello, this is Redheadtakes here, and today we are doing a Dark Souls tier list of the best of all the bosses in Dark Souls 1. Arguably one of my favorite games of all time. And yes, I would like to get back to Twitch and play this game in front of people. And if you are interested in that, let me know down in the comments below. And just let me know where you would rank all of these bosses from 1 to 19. I mean, they're all most of them are fantastic. Some are good, and there are some that are just downright dreadful. But we're gonna go over the tiers. We're gonna go over every boss here. Go do a little background. I'm gonna give my thoughts and some of my experiences with each boss, and then maybe some tips and tricks if you haven't played it yet. But let me know what you think down in the comments below, and let's get to it with the first boss in the game. Let's see, where are you, Asylum Demon? The Asylum Demon, which is, to be honest, pretty mediocre first boss. I mean, you don't even really have to beat him when you first go through Undead Asylum. You can just avoid him, get out the gate, leave, and make your way to Sanctuary, and you don't have to come back till like a couple hours in. And frankly, you don't ever have to really beat him. I mean, you can always just avoid him, but some people have been able to beat him in the first time through with just the broken sword hilt. I don't know how that's possible. If somebody out there has beaten the Asylum Demon with just the broken sword hilt, please let me know how to do that, because it would be a nice feather in the cap to do that, because I've tried to do that just to see how long it would take, and it would take forever to do that. I guess maybe if you plunge your sword down into the head of the demon, knock off half its health, and yeah, you'd have at least a pretty good start, but still, it would still take a while. But it's a pretty mediocre boss, but the cool design, the lore behind it is decent enough, and it's just a decent boss to start out with, but not the greatest, to be honest. Then we have the Taurus Demon, which I would put in the solid tier. The Taurus Demon is pretty fun. One of the first really big bosses, well, not big, but one of the first ones that really gives people challenges up in the Undead Burg. I mean, tips for you if you haven't played it. Definitely want to climb up the ladder, or as the Taurus Demon runs at you, take out that archer. Otherwise, he's just going to keep whittling down your health, because some of the archers in this game just whittle your health down, especially if you don't take them out right away. But the main way to beat the Taurus Demon is to climb up the ladder, plunge your sword in, you'll stagger him, and then climb back up, and do it again. Now, he does have a wide area of effect attacks. Yeah, so I've gotten hit way up at the top of that tower, and it's like, how the hell does that happen? You have to be very careful when you're inching yourself over the edge. You have to make sure you have enough room to jump and plunge your sword at the same time without just falling off. Because if you fall down and you get hit, you could lose your health very quickly. But I like the design of the Taurus Demon. It's basically just a giant bull-like creature with a giant hammer. It does really good damage, but he can be beaten pretty quickly. When I first faced the Taurus Demon, it took me like a handful of times, but I eventually got through it, and just one of those nice first bosses that really gets you into the meat and potatoes of this great game. Next, let's see, we have, I guess depending on how you go through the game, in which area you want to tackle first, or so on. The next one for most people is the Capra Demon. It is an excellent boss battle because the Capra Demon just looks so awesome. But on the other hand, it's also a mediocre one because it's such a bastard. This boss fight is a bastard. Now, I said before that the Taurus Demon gives people fits. This one definitely gives a lot of people fits going in. I mean, not only do you have the Capra Demon, it's really fast, this tiny little area that not a large area to move around, but you also have two dogs that are really fast, can jump, and they also cause poison damage. And if you know anything about this game, early on, poison damage can kill you faster than you can say oops, and it whittles your health down like this. and before you know it, it's gone. And then not only are you losing the poison damage, you're also getting attacked by the dogs as well, and you're having this evil monster just swinging giant swords at you the whole time. It would be cool to actually use dual wield the Capra demon swords. I mean, because it is pretty cool. But I like the lore behind it, kind of. But if I'm just being honest, the Capra demon is just a shitty boss fight because it's just so unfair. From where you are in that game, depending where most people take on the Capra demon, it just sucks. It just really sucks a lot, and it's just, you know, just one of those things. Next we have, let's see, um, we have the gargoyle demons, two twin gargoyle demons right before you ring the first bell of awakening. I like this boss fight. When I first went through, I didn't really struggle with it that much. I mean, as long as you take out one of them first and focus on one of them, and then just have one to deal with, and then just dodge your way out of the way the rest of the time, it's easy enough. And if you haven't played Dark Souls before, certain bosses, when you cut off their tails, they become bigger weapons later on. A lot of them are more strength builds, so you have to really put in a lot of time and effort into improving your strength. But the Gargoyle's Halberd is a pretty fun weapon, and I use this a lot. Usually put fire on it, and it was just a nice weapon to use. About through a third to maybe halfway through the game, you can get a lot of good time out of it before it becomes just not that damage worthy. But I like the Gargoyle demons. It's the one of the really early boss fights that really gets you ready for the rest of the game. And because it opened right before the Bell of Awakening, a lot of things really start to happen in the story once you ring that bell after beating the gargoyles. But it's a good boss fight overall. Next we have, we'll talk about the Stray Demon again. The Stray Demon is, yes, very similar to the Asylum Demon. And like the Asylum Demon, it's just kind of mediocre. You face the Stray Demon after you come back to the Undead Asylum. And overall, just not much to say. Like, it's very similar to the Asylum Demon, and to be honest, it's just not all that interesting. Let's see. Next we have, I guess the next one would be Quelaag. Quelaag is a really fun boss fight. She has a nice moveset. The lore behind Quelaag is really cool because she is one of the daughters of Chaos, the Witch of Iceland. I mean, just look at it. It's just this horrifying woman with a spider-like body and this beautiful woman at the top. She was infused with chaos magic and basically turned into a giant demon. And it's kind of sad what happened to her, but she still is kind of a hard one to fight, especially since in order to get to her, you have to climb through the swamp that is Blighttown. If any of you who play this game know, Blighttown sucks. Not only because it's just, the frame rate just kind of drops, but it's poison everywhere. Poison everywhere. And there's guys that throw giant rocks at you along the way. So you have to try and maneuver away and avoid them and take little bits of poison damage, unless you have the purple moss clump, which will take away the poison and then use your Estus to heal yourself. But it's a fun fight. The lore behind her is really cool. And this, to be honest, Quelaag really gave me a lot of trouble. It took me a while. It took me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to get through her. I had to take her at pieces, but eventually got through. And it was a fun boss fight, to be sure. It was one of those where you really feel accomplished after being her, because she's hard. I mean, she has lots of cool lava attacks. She jumps. She has a flaming sword that she swings at you. And since I usually play with the strength build, you have to really nibble along the edges. You can't get too greedy, because like anything in Dark Souls, if you get too greedy, you get dead fast. And this boss fight definitely exemplifies that masterfully. Next we have, I guess after this, then I went on to fight the Moonlight Butterfly, and to be honest, I don't want to put it in hot garbage here because it's not hot garbage because the lore behind it is pretty cool enough. But like I said earlier, I usually play a strength build, so this boss fight kind of sucks because the Moonlight Butterfly just flies gracefully around, and then it shoots magic at you. And if you don't have the right shield to block it, it takes off health like crazy. Especially if you go too early, you get dead really fast. But if you're a magic user and you can use your projectiles, or if you have a dexterity build and you have a bow, then it's easy enough. But if you're always focused on strength like I am, you have to be very good at dodging. You have to be very good at parrying and using your shield. And you just have to avoid the magic. And when the Moonlight Butterfly flies back down, just in terms of lore, the butterfly flying down just takes the rest while you just hammer at it. And you just have to be able to slash and take off as much health as possible before it's gracefully flying away and shooting magic at you again. But the lore behind is easy and fun enough. Our Moonlight Butterflies are creations of Seath the Scaleless, but still a cool area. And the design of the butterfly looks cool enough, to be honest. But to be honest, it's just, unless you're a magic user or a dexterity build, it's not the most fun boss fight in the world. Let's see. Next we have, these are later. Now, the first time I went through the game, I took on Great Grey Wolf Sif right after. It was a boss fight after the Moonlight Butterfly. Now, if you're playing the game properly or based on the lore, you should play Great Grey Wolf Sif later in the game after you went through Ulasil, the DLC, because the boss fight is even more impactful because you're basically fighting this great gray wolf and you're attacking it. And if you're a dog lover like I am, once the health really starts to whittle down, the dog or Sif starts to limp, and you start to feel really bad as it slowly swings her master sword. Of course, her master being the Great Knight Artorias. And for lore purposes, if you play it later on, if you remember through the Manus boss fight, Artorias lays a spell to protect Sif. So Sif knows you if you take him on later, but if you take him out early, it just sees you as a threat. But if you take him on later, it sees you as an old friend, but also as someone that you still have to fight, and it's that much more emotionally impactful. I mean, it's really sad when this great gray wolf dies and you kill it, but because it really hurts you in the feels, really does. But it's a necessary battle, and like I said, if you've never played this before and you're just watching this for the first time, play Great Wolf Sif later, because if you play too early, it can be kind of hard because of the swing motion attacks. You have to try and stay under the feet, otherwise you get dead really fast. But one of my favorite boss battles. It's just below legendary, but it is so darn close to being legendary boss battle for sure. Let's see. Then we go to Sen's Fortress, or at least that's what I did. And we have the Iron Golem. The Iron Golem is solid. Now the Sen's Fortress is kind of a bastard, especially the first time you go through it. Even for me going through it, there on playthroughs after, it's still not the most fun area to go through because of all the traps. But the boss fight was fine enough. There's a lot of stepping and stopping attacks. He has a giant axe. If you're do it well enough, you can maybe even get him to fall off the edge, but you have to be really lucky to do that. But the first time I fought the Iron Golem, it was It took a couple chances, 4 or 5 times, but I got through it. It's not the best one in the world, but it's solid nonetheless. The lore behind it is kind of cool, but just a very solid boss battle so far. Next we have oh, that's right. I forgot about Gaping Dragon. I did Gaping Dragon earlier. The Gaping Dragon is really cool. The Gaping Dragon is basically a dragon that just ate until it became a giant mouth. Yes, it's a large fantasy world, and I mean it's a grotesque image, but it's a one of those dragons with a tail, and if you cut off that tail, you get the Gaping Dragon. I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called. If it's called an axe, but it's one of the great. It's like a great sword. It's one of the strongest weapons in the game, but I think it took like 60 strength to even be able to swing it. You need a lot of strength. You need a lot of endurance. Otherwise, it'll take your endurance down like that. Then you'll get maybe one swing. So it's not the most stamina efficient weapon out there, but it is a cool looking weapon. When I got to use it for the first time, you use it, it's like, oh my gosh, it takes off so much damage. But you have to weigh whether you want to use a lot of damage or, be able to get multiple swings with a lower strength build weapon. But I enjoy the weapon well enough. The boss fight is easy enough. You just gotta avoid and try and get the dragon in the back legs, but avoid when it's jumping down and slamming its mouth down. Otherwise, it will eat you and you'll be dead just like that. It's a fun battle though. It's at the very end of excellent, but still pretty fun nonetheless. The lore is cool behind it. I took this one on later, but we'll talk about Pinwheel. And to be honest, yeah, Pinwheel, the lore is kind of cool, but it's such an easy boss fight. I mean, if you've played the game well enough, or depending on how many times you play the game, you can go, maybe you can take Pinwheel out early enough because even at a lower strength or a lower build, you should be able to beat him. It's not that hard of a boss fight. It's probably one of the easiest boss fights in the game, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like they lost out on this one. I feel like Pinwheel could have been a lot better than what it was. Let's see. Now we get to one of the greatest boss battles of all time in gaming, to be honest. Ornstein and Smaug. I mean, either way, or you have to fight both of these titans at the same time. Ornstein is a fast with a lightning spear and just pummels you. But then there's the executioner Smaug, who's this ugly, disgusting cannibal that has a giant hammer and just slams it down on you and does untold damage. Now, when you beat them, or depending on which one you beat, if you beat one, once you beat one, the other one absorbs the other person's strength and grows really tall. Now, Ornstein, if you leave him for last, he treats Smaug as a fallen ally. He just puts his hand, absorbs his strength, and is like, you're a fallen comrade, I respect you. Now, if you kill Ornstein first and you leave Smaug just uses his hammer, just smashes Ornstein, takes his power, and just becomes huge. I always go with killing Smaug first because I love Ornstein's armor. The dragon armor is just so awesome. And it's really fun to use for the rest of the game. But Smaug is just an evil thing. The boss fight is really challenging. This was the first time I initially played through Dark Souls. I gave up. I gave up for a while and played other games until I came back to Dark Souls. And then one day I played for 3 hours. I played these two for 3 hours, and when I got done, it felt so accomplished. It's such a great accomplishment to beat both these bosses. I mean, it really made you feel great. Plus, after that, you get the Ward Vessel. So, no more backtracking. You can teleport between bonfires. It really opens up the rest of the game. It is just a really big milestone. If you've never played it, play it. Just even for some of these bosses, are just fun just to play them because they're cool. The designs are awesome, and the mechanics are really cool. Just one of the best boss fights in the history of Dark Souls for sure. Now, let's see. Let's talk about another one of the bad ones. The Demon Fire Sage is a little more challenging than the Stray Demon because it has Chaos Flame. It can shoot a giant area attack. But again, it's like the Stray Demon. It's like the Asylum Demon, but worse. It feels like such a tacked on boss fight, especially towards the end of the game when you're at the Demon Ruins. Yeah, not a great boss fight, to be honest. One of the worst ones out there. And we have the Centipede Demon. Yeah, that's Centipede Demon. Centipede Demon is pretty mediocre. Easy enough to fight. In order to really beat him, you need the Charred Iron Ring so you can walk on lava, though it still takes away health just a little more slowly if you just ran on the lava. There's not much to do this boss fight. You just have to attack the back, just keep hacking away and avoiding his fire attacks, but pretty mediocre. Not much lore behind this one, just kind of another forgettable one. And we have Ceaseless Discharge. Yes, one of the most inappropriate names you'll ever hear. We'll put him still above the demons, but the Ceaseless Discharge was once the son of the Witch of Islith, and of course through the botching of the flame, turned into a giant demon. Yes, the name is revolting. I understand that, but there's not much to it. You just have to run along a path until you're in an area where you can fight him, and then you just hack away. And just not much to it. The lore is kind of cool, but to be honest, the overall boss fight is kind of lame, to be honest. Let's see, there's a lot of the rest of the fights on here are pretty darn good. Oh, now we have the worst one. The worst boss fight in Dark Souls and just Soulsborne games in general. We have the Bed of Chaos, which is basically what the Witch of Islith became from her use of trying to recreate the flame. The witch is basically trapped inside the Bed of Chaos. Now, the Bed of Chaos is ugly blemish on one of my favorite games ever made. It has fire attacks. It just has area whip attacks with its giant limbs, and it turns into a platforming game that's not meant for platforming because there's no button to jump, but you have to fall down on the right root at the bottom of the Bed of Chaos while avoiding the limbs, while avoiding the collapsing ground beneath you. And then down below the Bed of Chaos, there's just like a single thing you hit, and then the Bed of Chaos goes away. But it has such an awesome lore behind it, but it's such a disappointment as a boss fight. It almost ruins the lore for me, but not quite. It's very close to doing that, but the lore behind it is so cool. I'm able to dismiss it, but it's still, when it comes down to it, one of the worst boss fights in Soulsborne games entirely, and definitely the worst in Dark Souls. Let's see, we have Gwyndolin. Again, somewhat of a solid boss fight. Again, the lore is pretty cool. It's like the other son of Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, and is basically treated as a female. So the lore there is kind of cool, but the boss fight is just you running down a long hallway while he shoots magic at you, and you have to crawl in the crevice on the side while he shoots his magic attack. Then you have to run and try and get to him while also avoiding several different magic attacks that also are like a homing rocket. So again, if you're a magic user or if you're a dexterity build with a bow, it's easy enough. It just gets a little harder when you're a strength build, and you always have to keep running, and avoiding the magic and attacking him and whittling down his health. And once you kill Gwyndolin, well, not exactly, no, that's something else, but just one of those forgettable bosses. It's solid overall, but to be honest, it's not my favorite. Let's see. Now we go to the boss of the painted world of Ariamis, which we have Priscilla. Priscilla is a fun boss fight for sure. It's a very unique boss fight because she's invisible. Now, the first couple of times I fought Priscilla, it took a while. It took a while because she's invisible, and she also has a tail weapon. So you have to try and watch her feet and see where her footprints are looking, so you can look around and cut off her tail to get the weapon. I've never been able to get it. Never been able to get the tail. So if any of you out there have any tips on how to get the tail, I would like to know, because I'd like to get all the weapons in the game. But she's a cool boss fight. The lore behind it, she's basically sent to the painted world of Ariamis. She was a creature, and she basically kind of rules over the painted world of Ariamis. Just a scared little child with her doll. Of course, you use the doll strange doll to get inside the painted world of Ariamis. But she has a cool looking design. She has a scythe. She has a tail, but it takes a while to beat it. Definitely takes a while to beat it. But the painted world of Ariamis is a cool area nonetheless. Next we have one of the last solid ones. Sanctuary Demon, we'll put right here. I actually like the Sanctuary Demon vibe because it's fast and furious. Unlike other bosses in this fight, the moment you enter Ul'Sil, or right before you enter Ul'Sil, you have the Sanctuary Garden guarding it. And once you enter the Sanctuary Garden's arena, it swarms at you. It flies towards you with all piss and vinegar. So you have to be careful to avoid its attacks right away. Otherwise, you'll take a large chunk out right away. But it's fast and furious. It only took me a couple times. It's kind of like it's a giant manticore. It's a giant snake tail, and it's cool to fight. And when I first fought it, it was really cool. I didn't struggle that much. I think it might have taken me 1 or 2 times to beat it, but overall the lore is kind of cool behind it because it's guarding the land of Ul'Sil, and it's really fast and furious and really makes you pay attention. Now, most of the boss fights on here require your attention, of course, but this one especially because of its vicious, fast, and furious attacks at the beginning once you enter the arena. But a fun boss fight that you won't soon forget. Let's see, next we have, now that we're in Ul'Sil, we shall take on next, we'll do Kalameet. Kalameet is really fun. Kalameet is really cool. It's one of the last living dragons. It has a laser attack. It's also really fast and furious like the Sanctuary Guardian. Some of the cutscenes leading up to Kalameet are really cool because, Hawkeye Gal shoots down Kalameet. But the boss arena is pretty fun. The lore behind it, Kalameet is cool. And again, another one of those boss fights that didn't trouble me that much. I beat Kalameet in 1 time. I beat it on the first try. I don't know what was so special about that. Maybe because my strength was so high, I was able to just take away a lot of damage just like that. But it just felt like after, it's like, wow, that was a lot easier than it should have been. Because I've heard Kalameet is one of the hardest bosses in the game. But, it's just one of those things that it's just, some bosses cause people trouble and others don't. And this just was one that didn't cause me a lot of trouble, but it's a cool boss fight, one of the best fights in the game, and it's part of the DLC. Again, another reason why the Ul'Sil DLC was just so fun, because there's so much good content in it, and all the boss fights are awesome. they're awesome. Then we have Knight Artorias. Again, another legendary boss fight. Probably one of my second, probably easily my second. No, I love the Knight Artorias boss fight, especially because of the lore. The lore behind Knight Artorias is so awesome. He's this legendary warrior or tasked with holding back the abyss. And when you fight Artorias, he is damaged, he is cursed, he is overcome by the darkness, and you can see it with his attack. He is wounded, but he's still a respectable warrior, and he has some great attacks. Again, another one of those boss fights that I beat in the first time. I beat Knight Artorias in the first run, but the boss fight is fantastic. The music is so sad and somber, but epic nonetheless. It's sad seeing him done in, but at the same time, you feel accomplished because you helped him rest. You helped him finally move on. You beat a great warrior, the great warrior who saved the land. But man, the cool nature of the armor. It's a wolf set. It looks awesome. The arena is awesome. And again, like I said, the music is fantastic and really gets you going throughout. One of the best out there for sure. And we have the last one of which we have Manus. Manus is really fun. Manus gave me a lot of trouble because of the nature of the arena. You have to keep killing. It's cool that you keep killing the shadows for extra humanity, but his attacks are strong and fierce. I mean, the design of Manus looks cool and awesome. The lore behind Manus is great and really gets you further into delving deeper into the story. It's cool when you have Sif there or being protected, and again, another one of those fights where you feel really accomplished because he is really challenging. It gave me a lot of fits, to be honest, and it was a great way to wrap up the Ulusil DLC and then move on to the rest of the game. Absolutely fantastic. As the father of the abyss, he is one cruel customer, to be honest. Seath the Scaleless. We'll put Seath right here. Because the first time you face Seath, you can't beat him. There's no crystal there. In order to actually damage Seath, you have to kill the immortal crystal that keeps him alive. And the first time you enter the boss arena, it's all crystal-like everywhere. And there's just Seath there. And he shoots you down with the frost magic, and you're dead. And then you wind up in the prison of the Duke's archives, and you have to make it all the way back to Seath, where when you actually get to the true boss battle, there's a crystal hanging behind him. You have to hit that, and then you can start to damage him. But he is still kind of a hard boss. It took me like 10 times or so. You have to watch his area of attack. His crystal attack, his wide-spreading crystal attack will hurt you like no other, and the tails are always swinging, and he's always swinging back at you. But once you beat him, again, another one of those boss fights where you feel accomplished. Most of the boss fights in this game you feel accomplished beating, but again, the lore is awesome behind him. He's a cool looking boss, and it's just Seath is another one of those tragic bosses in Dark Souls where you feel bad for killing him, but you also feel good because he goes insane, and some of the experiments that he does are pretty terrible, but it's a fun boss fight nonetheless. Next we have the Four Kings. Four Kings is excellent as well. I think we're going to move Quelaag a little bit. Quelaag is there. But yeah, the Four Kings is fun. You're in a dark arena. You have 4 different kings swinging at you. You have to beat all of them. And you also have to avoid not falling down. Now, I never had trouble with that. I think the Four Kings maybe took me less than a handful of times, maybe 3 or 4 times. But I never died because I fell down or fell off the path. I never died because of that. I always died because I took too many hits. Some people struggle with avoiding the dark spots, but I just like to keep a nice boxed in area. Always try and stay in a small area. That way I can always have ground underneath me. And the Four Kings is easy enough, but you just have to watch them because they're always coming in out of the background and swinging. You have to try and strength build is really nice for this one because you can try and knock them off one by one. The problem when they get really hard is when there's all four kings on screen swinging at you. But if you have a strength build and you can whittle them down one by one, there's only ever having maybe one or two swinging you at the time. So it's advantageous to have a strength build to fight this guy, but you can beat any boss in this game with any build that you choose. But I just always prefer strength, but any build is fun. But the lore behind the Four Kings is cool. Ruled over New Londo, which of course was flooded, and basically went evil. They totally went evil, and there's a cool fight. Second to last one, Grave Lord Nito. I love Grave Lord Nito. Definitely one of my favorite fights for sure. The arena is cool. There are skeletons around you that are kind of annoying. So that you have to watch out for so you don't get ganged up on. But I mean, just when you enter the arena for the first time, just looking at Grave Lord Nito coming out of his giant coffin, and he just has this giant dark cloak, this giant curved great sword, and he's just full of skeletons. He's like a literal embodiment of death in the universe, Dark Souls universe, and his attacks are cool. He has a great area attack that you have to watch out for. You have to dodge and duck out of the way to avoid that. Grave Lord Nito didn't give me too much trouble. Maybe a handful of times took me to beat him, but it's still a fun fight. Again, like a lot of these last couple bosses, the lore is fantastic for the lords of Dark Souls that have the great Lord Souls, and again, great fight. And last but not least, we have Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, which is one of the great video game themes of all time. I'm going to put him right around here. I love the lore, of course, obviously, because he's basically the evil king, or turned into evil king, who through pride tried to save the world that he loved, the family that he loved, taking his knights into the furnace at the end to restore the flame. And when you fight him, he's hollowed. He is a shadow of his former self, and it's a great way to end when you fight him. It's a battle for the ages, and his lore is awesome. His lightning attacks are fun. He's a great giant flaming sword, and the theme of the boss fight is just so memorable. Bow 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 do 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 bow 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 do 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 bow do do bow down 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 down. Yeah, that theme in the boss fight is fantastic, and I actually go back and listen to just the themes on Spotify. They're just fun to listen to over and over and over again. They just really get you into it. It's kind of emotional at the end because I don't know, it just has this nice twangy sad atmosphere with the song going on. But again, when you beat Gwyn the Lord of Cinder, you've beaten the game, and then you get to go into New Game Plus and play it all over again, which I highly suggest. After you beat Dark Souls for the first time, I highly recommend playing it again, because then you can kind of breeze through the first couple bosses with your build from the last game. Still gets harder towards the end with some of the bosses. They slowly get stronger as the more new game pluses you play through, but again, a great end to a great series. And if you enjoyed the list, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Give it a like, subscribe, and again, let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see me play this game on Twitch, because I would love to play this game for all of you again. It's fantastic. One of my favorite games of all time. And just for some history, I would never have gotten into this game had it not been for Games for Gold. I got this game for free with Games for Gold, and I played it one night, just played a little bit, and even though it was janky at the beginning, even though the crows just felt really janky at times, the world just opened my eyes. It's one of those games that if you showed a history teacher or an English teacher, oh, if you can make this like a literary assignment about certain items in the game, you could really dive deep into the lore. I mean, there are whole channels based on the lore. Not like I'm going to start a channel about Dark Souls lore, like the Vati Vidya and Haksha could do this better than I ever could. But I love the lore behind Dark Souls. It's still so fun to go back to. This game gets better every time I play it. But let me know what you think down below. Otherwise, have a great day. And as always, God bless.